We are here with Marc Davison, co-founder of 1000 Watt, which is a creative agency that's become one of the most influential voices in real estate branding and storytelling. And Marc, welcome on. How you doing today?
Hey, Jacob. I'm doing great. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me. It's a pleasure to be
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Well, I'd love to start with your journey. How did you get into the creative world? How'd you go from the creative world into building, what many people consider the go-to brand agency in real estate?
Um, I appreciate the always starting at the origin story because when we take on a project, it's really where we like to start is
Yeah,
tell us how it all started. Because somewhere
absolutely.
in that story is like people get excited about that early days and what they were feeling and believing, and there's passion there, and you could build from that. I think if you were in the creative space, you just naturally acclimate. You're that from an early age. I grew up in a very non-creative family, but I was always that guy or the kid that was like off doing his creative stuff. Um, so it just seemed like every time I tried to find my way into a more conventional career path or a conventional studies in school, I just didn't really connect with any of it in the way that I did when I was in the creative arts of any kind. And typically, when you do what I do, you're an artist or you're a musician or you're a playwright or like you're an interior decorator. You're just right brained and you're creative. And then if you're astute enough to your own needs, you don't force yourself into becoming a lawyer or a doctor. You just follow that path. And so like that's what I did. Um, and I think just to fast forward it, I mean, I studied in school. I got my first jobs were in creative agency. You learn the ropes and you discover whether this is the right journey for you, or maybe there's another creative path. But I always liked the idea of branding because branding and business strategy are really very closely tied together. And I have found that a lot of founders and CEOs don't always understand the role of brand in business, except for the ones who do. And if you're the ones who do, well, then you're Jeff Bezos, you're Steve Jobs, or you're that crazy dude from Dollar Shave Club who understood how critical building brand is and how that can ascend you all the way up to the top of the competitor heap if you nail brand early. So it's not just some like woo-woo creative little fun thing that those people in the marketing department do. It needs to have a seat at the table. It's part of the C-suite. The brand is. And if you can nurture the brand, what it's doing is it while the rest of your business is dialoguing with the marketplace around rationale, like use my product because it's the best price, or use my product because we use the best ingredients. These are all good reasons to use it, but they're not always the best reasons to buy it. The reasons to buy something is because you feel something from it. And when you trigger feeling, well, then the brand is acting like, in a way, a human being. I mean, this is what attracts us to people we like. We feel something from them. I can go, you know what, rationally speaking, because and I live next door and our kids go to the same school and we drive a similar car, we should be friends. If I'm not feeling your vibe, it ain't going to happen. So like branding is vibe. Like when you manifest that vibe, you can drive sales, you drive growth, you drive business, you hire to that. You attract that. It's so freaking powerful. So the fact that 1000 Watt became what we became was because we understood how to do it. We knew from the get-go how to penetrate the emotional center of our targeted audience. So we knew who our audience was. We knew exactly who we personified our audience. We knew who we were aiming at, and we aimed right at them with messaging that we knew would hit them right. And they responded immediately. I've never done biz dev. We have never gone after a client. The phone and the
Wow.
email box just ring because I know how to trigger emotion. And once I do that, the second people feel something, they just have to respond to it. It's undeniable. And it's anybody who studied any kind of psychology in high school, or has paid attention to life, realize like, uh, if you show up at the airline gate and start yelling at the gate person because your flight's delayed, you're not getting what they probably could give you if you were just nice and kind and made them feel good. Then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm not going to tell everybody, but there is a first class seat on the flight right over there. I'll get you on.
Yep.
And it's just that simple, man. So like that's how we got to where we got to, and we do decent work. So like that helps.
I mean, yeah, and I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like your example of going next door and telling your neighbors, "Hey, we have all of this in common. We should be friends." It's like dating. It's like the men we think logically of these are reasons on why on paper we should be together. But the women, they think emotionally of you're making me feel a certain way. That's why I want to be with you. And we're sitting there and we're like, trying to understand like everything should be doing it this way. But if you don't trigger that feeling or that emotion, you don't get near as far.
It's
So,
um it's a very interesting and good analogy. And to take it one step further, if we were to generalize that women react more to feeling and men react more toward like in the moment rationale, um, the most successful relationships, albeit personal or in business, are where both sides can really start to understand each other's point of view and take on some of those emotional attributes. Um, and what you're leaning into is studies that were done by this guy named Abraham Maslow back in the 40s, who, the hierarchy of needs and developed that sort of pyramid of uh, like human needs. Sitting at the very bottom of that pyramid is just the need for food and shelter. And as you begin to move up to that pyramid, you get to that place of sense of belonging where when you can find your tribe and fit into that tribe, it is a gateway toward the next two levels of the pyramid, which is self-esteem and self-actualization, which is ultimately like, whether you think about it or not, you know, what life is about to get to that point where you just feel good about yourself and you begin to self-actualize and realize like what's important to you and what you need and how you need to live, how to do life right. But you can't get there until you feel a sense of belonging. And branding plays right into Maslow's whole hierarchy of need. That sense of belonging, when they radiate you're gonna feel good here. You're gonna feel like home here. By using our brand, you're gonna realize that sense of you that you can't realize otherwise.
yep.
It's a great experiment is you ask a room of people how many use an Apple product, and most people will raise their hand. And you then go, okay, great. Would you ever replace that Apple device for a Samsung? And people would go, over my dead body.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a really interesting psychology because the truth is a Samsung phone and they do the same exact thing. You see this in cars. You go to the supermarket and you see somebody getting out of their $150,000 Maserati that they drove to the supermarket, uh, and you're like, really, you need a Maserati to pick up groceries? And that's not why they need a Maserati. They need a Maserati because when they get in it, it reflects their sense of self. And when they step out of it, they're messaging to the world, this is what kind of human being I am. This is where I'm at. That's sense of belonging. Uh, and that's why we use brands, because they're making us feel connected to a part of ourselves that we can't otherwise. And if you as a brand can figure out how to do that, and it's not easy to do that for yourself, it's where you kind of need agencies to help. Um, you're creating a different type of a customer, not just somebody buying your thing because you were the first thing that they saw or because you were the cheapest. They're buying it because you're the only thing in that category that they can see themselves using. And that's really
Yeah,
powerful. Um,
absolutely.
so you kind of have to be, a brand would have to be thinking both emotionally and rationally. You need both of those things ticking and clocking. Um, then it starts getting into, well, we have all kinds of clients. We have male clients, we have female clients, we have young clients, old clients. In the old days, Jacob, brands used to segment by gender and age. That no longer even makes sense anymore because you can't generalize. You can't say women like pink and men like black. I know many men that like like pink, and many women that like black, and that does not indicate any kind of other preference other than that's a color that they like. So what is it about pink that that makes a man like that color? What is it about blank that makes women gravitate to something that was unconventionally something women would gravitate toward? And what you begin to start realizing is that there are inner attributes and inner traits that can tell you a lot about people beyond surface stuff. And once you stop marketing to gender, once you stop marketing to age and you start marketing to commonality or to belief systems, because I can have the same belief system as a 20-year-old and we'll buy the same thing because we both believe in the same thing. That's why you'll see people who are 70 wearing Nike shoes and people who are 15 wearing Nike shoes because they both believe in high level performance and excellence. It's really kind of that simple. So when you unpack the nuances of branding and you really understand how deeply woven strategy is into that, that's when you start realizing that shit really needs to be a part of every decision we make at our company. And that's when it gets fascinating,
Absolutely.
when you finally realize that. And
Wow.
this plays out, like, think about real estate agents who are being told to build personal brands. Basically, they're being told to somehow manufacture some their own personality and make their own personality wide enough for me as a consumer to see myself belonging inside of that. And that's impossible. It just sounds good. Oh, who
Yeah,
doesn't really have a personal brand? But it's not. What you're building is just simply, an identity or awareness around your charisma, around your personality. There's no brand happening there.
yeah.
Um, so, I think this is why people who go through branding events, um, especially with an agency that knows how to do it, and there's many that do, you learn so much about yourself that you never even thought about or realize. That I've had many clients say to me, we never realized how much we love our company. Um, we never realized what we really represent in the marketplace. We never even thought about it. And once you can take possession of that cool thing, it's really like being given, in a way, a gift of self-awareness. Anyway,
Absolutely.
long-winded way of getting to that really cool point.
No, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it paints a picture, just like you said. I mean, it's how something makes you feel about yourself when you're able to drive that Maserati, when you have that Apple product, whatever it might be, you equate that with a sense of belonging or a sense of you know togetherness, whatever it might be, to really get across that feeling. I think that's really interesting.
So magical,
Uh
man. It's magical. Like, why does a tennis player choose a certain racket? It's probably because a tennis player that was a hero of theirs used that racket and they
yep.
feel connected. And why did some guitar players play a Fender guitar? Because their favorite guitar player when they were young played a Fender guitar. That's branding. Branding is
No,
making
it
that.
it absolutely is. So what over the years, 1,000 Watt has worked with some of the, biggest names in real estate. How has your approach evolved as the industry and the consumer has changed over time?
Um, that's an interesting question. The the intricacy of discovery. You're being given a project. You have to produce work. The way in which you have to think about how to not only do the work, but to get the client to buy the work. I mean, it's easy for you to walk into a retail shop, pull something off the shelf, pay for it, and walk out the door. When you're coming to a brand agency to get brand work, it's not like you're pulling, I want that logo off the shelf, or I'd like to have that tagline. We don't have material on display like that. We have to create it and come up with it. And when we do, it's likely not anything you were expecting. Everybody has an expectation. You know, remember when you were a kid and it's if you celebrated Christmas, uh, you see the packages all around the tree, and some of them are big and some of them are small, and you start imagining what's in there, and then you open it up, it's not what you thought. You get a little disappointed. It often happens where like the clients are imagining a logo that's going to be as wonderful and iconic as Coca-Cola, but it's not the case. So part of your processes has to be how to take the client through the journey. So when you finally start to reveal material, it becomes very self-evident why we landed there. That has not changed. Insofar as the order and structure of the process, what has changed is we've all been so inundated with media. It's likely that a marketer at a company has probably seen dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of marketers on social media talking about what marketing is. Or if you're a designer, you've seen many, many, many designers on social media showing you how they design. So people are coming to projects with a sense of understanding of how it's done, but not really. You would have to watch a billion hours of social media to first learn that so much of what you're watching is not really good information.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying, like by virtue of the exposure to information, it's easy for people to start thinking they kind of know a lot about it, even though they didn't study it. And as an agency, we have to become more and more aware of the person on the other end of the call who may likely appear to know what all the different things are that we do, and then have critique over it, really not based on a skill. And how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
Here's a tell. And there's memes about this. So like, but it's memes are based on truth. You're showing design work to a client, and somebody on the other side of the call starts using words like kerning to throw out the suggestion that they know design, and therefore, because they know to say the word kerning, their word carries more weight in the conversation. Maybe they're doing that to impress their employer. The reality is most don't even know what the word kerning means or how it's applied, or that the way in which they're using it makes no sense to us who actually know what it is. But we have to navigate that because that's a person on the other side of the call that we have to win over.
Yeah.
So I think the exposure of media, I also think, and this might be a good segue for you, but with the advent of AI and the use of the AI and the fact that everybody is using it to make things, you sometimes can falsely get lulled into the belief that you're a writer or a marketer or a brand expert or a designer because you're running AI and AI is making stuff for you. And maybe you lose your grip on the reality that you don't even know whether what it's creating for you or not is good. But you're
Yeah.
creating and it's giving you words and you're like, whoa, it's AI and I'm going to use it. Now I'm a marketer. So we have to be very, very conscious of like, not only that, Jacob, but people taking all the work we give them and putting it into AI because AI now has a seat at the decision-making table. So there's a
Does.
lot, right? So we got to grapple with that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you next is like, eh, do you see technology or AI in this instance as a creative partner or more as an operational tool to help you move faster, work smarter, or even more of a creative hindrance?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, you can tell by my uh, hair color that I've been around the block.
Well, at least you
I've had
have
enough
hair,
time.
Mark.
Well, some places. It's starting to recede. Uh, but like because of how I'm wired, I've always been first to new ideas. I'm just curious. Um, and just because you're older doesn't necessarily mean you're chronologically older. It doesn't mean that you're also older mentally. I still have that insane sense of curiosity. So when something new pops on, I got to know about it right away and I got to try it. Um, so in some ways, early on, I thought that AI was no different than like when I first bought a calculator years ago. Like, oh, it can help me do math. Um, and then after a while, I just stopped even trying to do math. I just used the calculator.
Yeah,
Um, so I used to think that AI was basically that. But the more AI got sophisticated, and then the more I began to study ways in which to manufacture custom GPTs and really train GPTs to do certain things. Here's what I've come to conclude that AI is maybe 80% as good as your 100% that you can give it. Um, it will take anything you give it and repackage it really nicely. Um, But if you don't know what you're really dealing with, if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't understand what marketing, let's say in my case, marketing is or branding is, you don't know whether to recognize where it flawed out or not. And I think people get often too enamored by the way AI spins phrases and spins words, realizing that the way it's doing it is not a way any human being would write or think. It just reads well and sounds well, but it doesn't read or sound human. Um, so it can be a creative partner, it could be a thinking partner, but I train my people internally. And actually, I'm not even training them anymore. They're all training themselves. They're all hired to be that kind of person that will self train. And we have conversations around this. AI is an assistant. It could be a creative assistant if you're doing creative work. It could be a theoretical assistant if you're doing theoretical work. There are some things it simply cannot do. Um, and it will fail every single time, no matter how good of a prompter you are. But if you don't really are an expert in the thing you're asking it to do, you're not going to recognize that it's failing. So you may end up taking what it's giving you and using it, not realizing it's shitty.
yeah,
And so if you're like a non-musician and you go to like suno.ai with maybe some words that you write and it puts music to it or it puts more lyrics to it and you go, oh my God, that sounds like a song. Yeah, it sounds like a song to you because you don't know music. But to a musician or somebody who really pays attention to music, it's going to be off. You know it's off. There's something not right about it. And this is the thing. There's something not human about AI. And it's that fingerprint is kind of recognizable. Um, and so I think companies who are using it, it's very powerful. And when you use something really powerful and don't quite know how to use it, if you ever got behind a wheel of like an Italian sports car, or even behind the wheel of a Corvette, and put your foot on the gas the way you would normally put your foot on the gas, you're in for a major surprise at how quickly that thing is going to take off. Even a Tesla can like go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. That is unbelievable power. And if you don't know how to control that, and that's AI, if you don't know how to manage what it's giving you, you must be its editor. And if you're its editor, it can be incredibly wonderful and powerful and useful. And if you delegate too much of it and don't have an expertise around what you're asking it to do, it could be your worst nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big, I would say, themes of the conversations that I've had is that, AI can do so much. And I know you mentioned using it more as just like an admin assistant, essentially, or somebody that can help to do repetitive tasks, take things off your plate, and that's great. But without the human element in certain areas of the business or certain messages that you want to convey, and you just have AI do it, not only is it not always accurate in terms of what it's saying, it's not just because you put something in Chat GPT doesn't mean it's spitting out the right thing, but
Mm,
also
yeah.
like it's not you don't have that human element. So in business, I had a guy who was on with me, at one point, and he was telling me how he has a new startup venture that he's starting, and it's just him and one other guy. And I said, "Well, are you looking to add more employees? Like, what's the plan there?" And he was like, "No, we're not going to add any more employees." And this is they're selling a product, and it's just those kinds of things where it's like, man, like, so you're relying strictly on your AI agents
Yeah.
to to actually handle the customers. And what happens if somebody wants to talk to a real person or you're not available and all they get is AI? Like I think there's a real, I think sometimes people take it too far in terms of we're going to automate everything and it's just going to be what we do and that's just who we are. But there's the human piece is still people buy from people still in this day and age, whether, it's AI driven or not. But also, you leave room for error because it's like you mentioned, like if you put something in there that you feel like is going to express a certain sentiment or something that should be pushed out to
Mm.
reflect your buyers or your people that you work with, and it's just strictly just off of data and not how certain people think about something or certain, people feel about something, you're going to miss out on what you're trying to do. And it's very powerful, like you mentioned, but there's definitely room for error. Um,
Historically, there have always been and will always be people who get into business who don't have a fundamental business background, who will not do the thing that you should do and make a mistake and fail, and learn the hard way, or buck the system entirely and succeed. Like these two guys may end up being like you never know. I'm very careful to not create mandate around AI. But I will say this: if you're building a business with two people and AI, the odds of being successful get slimmer because you're then not doing the thing that I know you're supposed to do, which is also to try to build brand essence around that business to safeguard and jettison and trigger and fertilize growth. And part of a brand is a culture. And part of a culture is humans who join the brand and add to that culture. It's a weird thing, man. These days, people are liking people less and less. Um, and yet, we still need each other. And in the absence of people in a situation, like I wish that I could fly. When I fly, I wish there was nobody on the plane. Every single person on the plane is bothering me. I
yeah,
wish they would all not be there. But it would be freaking lonely to be on a plane by yourself for 6 hours by yourself. Uh, it might be nice if it's a night, you lay back, recline, watch some Netflix and chill. But like we are wired to relate to each other and be with each other. And like you said, you call customer service and you're just getting an AI. It's trying to think, like, you call Marriott, try to get a human being on the phone. You start
It's
yelling.
hard.
You start yelling at that AI, and it's still, well, just tell me what you want before I put, like, it's like,
Yeah.
uh, and I think there's going to come a point in time where the experiment is over, and our fascination around this new thing is going to temper. Um, I had to write a speech this morning. I discovered this morning, because I was out all week, that for a presentation next week, I need to kick that presentation off with this. I need to make a speech to a board of directors of 40 people. So I only had a short period of time. And so I wrote the whole speech. I typed it all up and I put it into ChatGPT and I asked it to just edit, go through it, find like grammar, tense, just get it. Don't change anything. Just get it into shape. And when I reread it, it was mostly all there, except it took one part out. And that was the most important part for me. That was the most
Oh,
human moment, that I needed to say that part because of what that speech was all about. And it took that out because it
wow.
didn't understand. It couldn't tell the context. It was just editing and
Yeah.
smoothing, doing what it does. So I, as a human being, went back in and added that line. I didn't need it to edit it because it's a speech. I'm going to then recite it by heart and say what I say anyway. But it that's the thing. Like, what it did, the way it smoothed right through that segment, it read really beautifully. And this is a thing. Friction, friction is important. Friction is really, really, really important, and you don't realize it. But it's the incorrect grammar. It is the things that we say a little bit backward uh, that makes us human and makes that sound more full of feeling and familiarity. When you are naming, in the art of naming, finding names and words that have a little bit of off to it, a little bit of friction to it, actually create a really great name. Taglines are typically really bad grammar. Like, got milk is not good grammar. Think different is not good grammar. Just do it is not good grammar.
Just do it. I was about to just say, yeah.
Just do it is not good grammar. But like, you want a little bit of friction in your writing because that snaps people to attention because it's a little bit off. AI writing smooths everything out. It's like a big
Yep.
rolling machine with that big roller rolling down pavement, just flattening everything into the pavement. And then there's nothing interesting about the pavement.
Yeah, man, I love that. I think that's so spot on and gets lost in translation a lot of times because, I think we've all at one point been like, hey, make this sound better to a chat GPT, and then it pushes it out and you read it and you're like, damn, it nailed it. That's fantastic. But then you have someone else read it and they're like, that doesn't sound like you at all. Like, why,
No,
what? Like, that doesn't sound like anything you would say.
it doesn't even sound like something a human being would say.
No,
Um,
no, it
it,
doesn't.
it it's 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 too perfect. So like, that really creates a challenge. Well, then how do I use it? Um, what I would say is, know your voice, know what you want to write. Like, be more Here's the reality: do whatever you want to do. Like, if you're that person that wants AI to write and you don't care about your writing, and you just want AI to write it because you think the task is, I just need to write something and put it out. What I've told people inside my industry, which is real estate, is I get the fact that you all got into this business not to be marketers. You got into real estate to sell real estate or run a brokerage or build an application. You didn't get into real estate to be a marketer. So now you have to market. You're forced to market. And so you're delegating your marketing to this machine. It's telling me several things. One is you don't really understand marketing. You don't understand the benefit of good marketing. And you are not allowing yourself to enjoy the joy that is good marketing, like to actually sit around. I spent the last 2 days at a resort spa here in Tucson, where I live, with my business partner, working on homepage copy for a new service we're going to offer. And we spent 2 days on basically the copy of the homepage. We spent hours on the main headline phrase of the page. We spent hours on the subcopy, more hours on the next headline. We went online and started looking at old videos of old advertisements that like were trying to sell something similar that we could sell, and watching old ads from the 70s and 60s, looking for language. It was so much fun to actually do that because it's creative and it's fun, and you're spending time on your business and on something that will make your business grow, which is your marketing. If you look at marketing as this thing you have to do to check it off a list, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to get you what it is you're doing marketing for, which is to grow your business. So I say do whatever you want, but like there's so much joy in doing marketing correctly and using AI. We didn't use AI the last 2 days, which is also so refreshing. You get two really good writers in a room that are lifelong advertisement copywriters. We don't need AI.
Without AI, yeah.
But we don't need it. But I understand that other people do. But like, if you're going to use it responsibly. You'll get more out of it.
No, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you hopping on here. I think this is going to be great for our audience to hear, especially from, somebody that's seen the world of, like you mentioned, branding, of creativity, of writing when there was no AI involved, into, where it's at today and how people are using it and where it's beneficial, but also where there's still gaps and still areas that we have not figured out. So, really appreciate the time, Marc. Again, anybody that's looking to upgrade or to get into any kind of branding for any real estate business that they're running, 1000watt.net is where to go. Is that right?
Yeah, well, happy to chat and see if we are a good fit for each other. If I could leave you with one final message,
100%.
which is use AI for all the right reasons. Don't use AI to replace employees. If your business can make some more money and you can give somebody a job and keep them working, you're supporting the community, you're supporting the economy. The more people that get displaced because AI is replacing their jobs, what people are not realizing is we are reducing the number of consumers we have in the marketplace. And then all of a sudden you have these businesses run fully by AI and nobody's able to buy your product. We have not laid anybody off. We're all using AI. We've built an AI bot for our company. We're keeping everybody employed. Keep people employed, keep people working. Use it as a supplement for good work, not to replace people. People need
I love
people.
that.
People need work. People need jobs. Do that and you'll have good karma.
I love that.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween yourself.